The front is quiet, but it is not stable. Western Germany, late winter 1945. The ground is hard with frost. Roads are torn by retreat and overcrowded with civilians. The German army west of the Rhine is breaking apart unevenly, not shattered, but dislocated. Units still exist. Command still exists. Escape still seems possible. General George S. Patton studies this condition carefully. His Third Army has crossed the Rhine faster than expected. Fuel is scarce. Bridges are fragile. Infantry and armor are stretched thin along advancing roads. A direct assault against intact formations would slow everything. Patton does not pause to consolidate. He orders continuous movement. Columns advance past towns instead of stopping to clear them. Bridges are seized, then bypassed. Crossroads are taken, not to hold ground, but to deny direction. Every decision favors speed over contact. American patrols appear simultaneously on multiple axes. Radio traffic increases. German reports inflate American strength. What is actually a narrow spearhead begins to feel like a wall. German commanders attempt to reorient their forces. Orders move slowly. Communications fail. Retreat routes close one by one. No single engagement defines the moment. There is no decisive clash. Instead, there is pressure without release. Patton's staff tracks enemy movement rather than enemy resistance. The goal is not destruction. It is enclosure. The map fills with arrows that do not point forward, but inward. By the end of the day, German units find themselves marching towards safety that no longer exists. Roads they used in the morning are cut by afternoon. Columns turn back and meet American roadblocks where none were reported hours earlier. The pocket has not yet closed, but the sense of space is already gone. Movement replaces pause. March 1945. The Rhine has been crossed on multiple bridges, some intact, others thrown across under fire. Patton's Third Army pushes east into a landscape already in motion. German lines no longer hold in straight fronts. They bend, fragment, and slide backward. American armored columns advance along parallel roads. Infantry rides trucks when fuel allows and walks when it does not. The roads are crowded with retreating German units mixed with civilians pulling carts, bicycles, and wagons. Traffic slows everything, but it also exposes weakness. Small German detachments surrender at road junctions. Others melt away into woods. Headquarters staffs relocate repeatedly, leaving behind maps, files, and broken radios. Orders arrive late or not at all. The structure still exists, but control does not. Patton follows the advance from a constant stream of reports. Signal intercepts. Aerial reconnaissance. Unit logs marked with times that no longer align. He watches where resistance fails to appear, where roads remain open longer than expected, where German movements drift inward instead of outward. He does not widen the drive. He narrows it. Armor is directed past strongpoints and toward crossings, hills, and intersections that shape movement. Units are told to keep going, even when flanks feel thin. Speed becomes protection. Delay becomes risk. German commanders attempt to pull forces east to reform. The routes they choose converge. Each hour of delay compounds the problem. Columns back up. Vehicles abandon fuel. Men march without clear destinations. By nightfall, American patrols report German units moving in circles, guided by outdated instructions. The space between retreat and encirclement begins to shrink, not through attack, but through momentum. The map no longer shows escape routes. It shows compression. The advance does not slow. It changes shape. Late March 1945. Central Germany. Patton's orders shift from forward drive to lateral control. Towns are bypassed. Villages are isolated but not entered. Bridges over secondary rivers are taken intact, then sealed with small detachments and tank destroyers positioned in open view. American units move visibly and repeatedly along the same roads. Columns double back, then reappear elsewhere within hours. Dust clouds rise in daylight. Engines run through the night. To observers on the ground, the movement suggests depth that does not exist. Radio traffic increases sharply. Messages are transmitted in clear patterns, then abruptly rerouted. German signal units intercept fragments that imply multiple divisions operating on parallel fronts. Reports move upward stripped of context, filled with assumed strength. Patrols operate aggressively but selectively. They establish roadblocks on high ground and at narrow intersections, then withdraw before contact can develop. The intent is not to hold. It is to be seen. Each appearance forces German units to halt, redeploy, and request guidance. German commanders respond cautiously. They delay movements to confirm reports. Units wait for orders that never arrive. Attempts to concentrate force dissolve as roads close unexpectedly behind them. Patton's staff monitors reactions rather than resistance. When German units avoid a route, American armor takes it. When a bridge draws attention, another crossing is seized quietly upstream. The shape of the enclosure tightens without announcing itself. By the end of the week, German maps show American symbols everywhere. The actual American front remains narrow, stretched, and mobile. What matters is not what stands in front of the German forces. It is what seems to surround them. The pocket tightens silently. Early April 1945, Western Germany. German units find themselves hemmed in by roads cut off at unexpected junctions. Fuel is scarce. Ammunition runs low. Food has been rationed for days. Men march, wheel equipment, and drag carts without knowing if resupply will arrive. Communications collapse. Radios fail or transmit partial messages. Orders contradict each other. Battalion leaders argue over what roads remain viable. Units separate as columns drift toward dead ends. Headquarters attempts coordination, but reports take hours to reach the next command post. By the time replies return, situations have already changed. American armor is visible on nearly every axis. Tanks appear on hills, at crossroads, and along secondary roads. Recon patrols move fast, doubling back in patterns that make the force seem larger than it is. Each appearance forces German officers to shift units, leaving gaps elsewhere. Roadblocks multiply overnight. Bridges are blocked, not destroyed, denying passage while avoiding contact. Soldiers encounter these obstacles unexpectedly, forcing detours through forests, fields, and frozen streams. Movement becomes slow and confusing. Leaflets drop from low-flying aircraft. They offer terms of surrender, describing overwhelming force ahead and annihilation for those who resist. Rumors spread quickly among units. Fear replaces calculation. Morale erodes without a single firefight dictating the pace. Commanders try to reorganize. Units shift and countershift, often colliding with one another in confusion. Exhaustion sets in. Every hour, the sense of control diminishes. The pocket has become a cage. Yet no shot has been fired. There is no pause inside the enclosure. Early April 1945. Central Germany. Patton's Third Army maintains constant contact without committing to battle. Recon units probe roadblocks, withdraw, then reappear hours later from different directions. Artillery is registered but held silent. The pressure is deliberate and continuous. American patrols advance to the edge of German positions, then break off before engagement. Tanks idle in open fields within sight of roads, engines running, crews exposed. At night, headlights move along ridgelines and disappear. By morning, they are somewhere else. Deadlines are imposed without announcement. German columns attempting to reposition find crossings closed that were open hours earlier. Roads briefly cleared are sealed again by noon. Each movement requires approval that never arrives in time. Feigned attacks compound the strain. Armor assembles in visible strength near towns, then disperses before contact. Infantry advances to tree lines, halts, and pulls back. German units respond each time, shifting men and equipment, burning fuel and energy with no result. Exhaustion sets in quickly. Command posts relocate repeatedly. Maps are redrawn by hand, then discarded. Officers struggle to account for units that have drifted off route or stopped moving altogether. The lack of clarity becomes its own threat. American units remain in motion. Even when stationary, they appear temporary. Nothing suggests a fixed line or a safe gap. The sense of encirclement becomes constant, reinforced hour by hour. German resistance does not collapse in a single moment. It thins. It frays. It hesitates. By the end of the day, movement itself feels dangerous. Standing still feels worse. Confusion now reaches the highest levels. Early April 1945. Inside the encircled area, German senior officers struggle to regain control. Corps and divisional headquarters relocate repeatedly, carrying incomplete staffs and outdated maps. Telephone lines are cut or overloaded. Radio traffic becomes sporadic and contradictory. Reports moving upward describe American armor appearing simultaneously in multiple sectors. Strength estimates double, then triple, as sightings are repeated by different units unaware they are observing the same columns. What begins as uncertainty hardens into assumed encirclement by several armored corps. Some commanders seek authorization to break out. Others request permission to negotiate localized surrenders. Both requests stall. Orders from higher headquarters arrive late, urging continued resistance without providing routes, reinforcements, or fuel. Attempts at negotiation expose the reality. Officers sent forward to test American intentions encounter organized control points, disciplined movement, and forces positioned closer than expected. The Americans appear confident, unhurried, and fully supplied. The impression is decisive. Within German command posts, debate replaces direction. One plan cancels another. Units are ordered to hold, then move, then wait. Each reversal spreads further doubt down the chain of command. Initiative disappears. Staff officers begin focusing on logistics rather than maneuver. Food stocks, medical capacity, prisoner handling. The questions themselves reveal the shift underway. Meanwhile, exaggerated reports continue to circulate. Each retelling strengthens them. The American presence grows larger on paper than on the ground. The military situation becomes inseparable from perception. Decisions freeze under the weight of incomplete information and imagined threats. By nightfall, no unified order governs the pocket. Only hesitation remains. The collapse begins quietly. Mid-April 1945. Central Germany. Small German units approach American lines under improvised white flags. They arrive in groups first. Platoons. Companies. They carry personal weapons unloaded or discarded along the road. There is no single surrender point. It happens everywhere at once. American officers accept capitulations methodically. Weapons are stacked. Names are recorded. March routes are assigned. Prisoners are directed away from roads still needed for movement. The process is controlled, deliberate, and continuous. Entire formations follow. Battalions arrive intact, led by exhausted officers who no longer expect relief or orders. Vehicles are abandoned where fuel ran out. Artillery is left in fields with breaches removed. The front dissolves without resistance. Patton does not halt the advance. He regulates it. Surrenders are spaced and timed to prevent congestion. Armored columns continue to move past collecting points, maintaining the appearance of pressure on all sides. No opening is allowed to form. Breakout attempts never fully materialize. Units that consider movement encounter roadblocks already established. Reports of surrender ahead discourage action behind. Momentum favors compliance over desperation. Logistics strains shift quickly. American units divert rations, guards, and transport to manage the growing numbers. Field hospitals prepare for prisoners as well as their own wounded. The system adapts without stopping. German resistance evaporates unevenly but decisively. The fear of annihilation fades, replaced by the certainty of containment. Men sit along roadsides, waiting for instructions that now come from the other side. The pocket empties itself, yet the enclosure remains active, and movement continues. Word travels faster than the columns. Mid-April 1945. Reports move up and down Allied lines, describing mass capitulations without major fighting. Units advancing on parallel routes encounter long files of prisoners already marching west under guard. The scale is difficult to grasp at first. American commanders compare notes. Numbers accumulate rapidly. Thousands, then more. Collection points expand into fields and factory yards. Military police units are reassigned on the move. Supply officers reroute trucks meant for fuel to carry food and water instead. The effect spreads beyond Patton's sector. Neighboring Allied formations adjust expectations. Resistance anticipated on certain axes never materializes. German positions reported as strong are found abandoned or surrendering on approach. Timetables accelerate quietly. On the German side, the impact is immediate. News of the capitulations travels through remaining units by rumor and intercepted radio traffic. Formations still outside the pocket reassess their chances. Orders to hold ground feel increasingly detached from reality. Morale collapses unevenly but decisively. Officers struggle to convince men to dig in when entire divisions are rumored to have laid down arms intact. Ammunition remains unused. Weapons are cleaned rather than fired. Patton's headquarters remains focused on movement. Surrender processing continues, but armor and reconnaissance push onward. The image of unstoppable advance is preserved deliberately. There is no pause to acknowledge the scale of what is happening. German command structures farther east register the shift too late. The psychological balance has moved. Resistance is no longer assumed. It must now be justified. Across the region, the absence of battle becomes its own signal. The front feels hollowed out, and uncertainty spreads faster than any column. The roads begin to empty of enemies and fill with captives. Late April 1945, Central Germany. The pocket dissolves not with an order, but with movement. German units step out of forests, villages, and farmyards to surrender at the first American vehicle they encounter. Prisoners line the roads for miles, walking west in long, quiet columns. American armored units keep rolling. They do not stop to fight. They slow only long enough to direct surrendering troops toward temporary holding areas. Infantry follows behind, processing men as quickly as they arrive. The priority is movement. Combat power stays forward. Supply systems strain. Rations meant for advancing units are diverted. Water trucks are reassigned. Guards are pulled from rear areas. Engineers mark fields and roadsides for mass containment. The system bends, but it does not break. Abandoned German equipment litters the landscape. Trucks without fuel. Artillery left in ditches. Horses still harnessed to wagons. Maps and orders are discarded in hedgerows. Resistance no longer organizes itself around positions, only around survival. Elsewhere along the front, the effect spreads. German units not yet encircled encounter the evidence firsthand. Prisoner columns pass through their areas. Stories travel faster than commands. The realization settles in that organized withdrawal has failed. American combat units remain intact. They have not been ground down. Their strength is preserved, even as their responsibilities multiply. The advance continues eastward with little opposition. What remains of German resistance is uneven and uncertain. Some positions still hold. Many do not. The pocket is gone, but the consequences of its collapse are still unfolding. The movement finally slows. Late April 1945, Central Germany. The roads that carried prisoners now carry American columns pushing east with little opposition. The pocket no longer exists as a military formation. What remains are scattered units, isolated towns, and an enemy command struggling to function. Staff officers begin assembling totals. The numbers are high, far exceeding expectations for an operation without sustained fighting. Entire formations are gone from the German order of battle, removed not by fire, but by dislocation. The Third Army remains intact, its armor fueled, its infantry rested enough to continue. Patton does not mark the moment with ceremony. He treats it as a phase completed. Orders shift forward. Reconnaissance looks deeper into Germany. Momentum is preserved, not celebrated. Across Allied headquarters, the significance becomes clear. A large enemy force has been neutralized without the attrition that usually accompanies such results. Supply systems are strained, but combat power is not. Time has been saved. Lives have been spared on both sides. German command, by contrast, cannot replace what was lost. The surrender removes not only men and equipment, but confidence. Other units now calculate their chances differently. The assumption that resistance must end in destruction no longer holds. Survival becomes a factor. What unfolded here was not accidental. Speed denied planning. Movement denied certainty. Visibility denied accurate judgment. Fear filled the gaps where information failed. No battlefield monument marks this victory. There is no single engagement to point to on a map. Yet its effect ripples outward, shaping what follows in the final weeks of the war. An army was defeated before it could fight, and the front moved on.